The coming of the lawless one is according to the work of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders. The same term here is applied to Jesus, and I think it's Hebrews 1 or 2 where it says he came in with whatever. But these are lying. They're false signs, false lying wonders, false power. And with all unrighteousness, deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. And for this reason, God will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So here these people are. They are sent blindness. These people are sent physical blindness, so they can't find the door. Right? This is what's happening at the time of Sodom and Gomorrah. But Paul says exactly the same thing is going to happen spiritually. They are not going to be able to see the truth when the truth is right in front of them. The door was right in front of these people. What does it say? It says the angels pulled him back through the door. They literally grabbed him and literally pulled him through the door. And the rapture is like that. The word is harpazo, and it's to seize by force and to pull out. When Philip was speaking to the Ethiopian eunuch, right? And the eunuch got the gospel. He says, I believe. He says, look, there's water. Baptize me. Philip baptized him. The next thing you know, it says, and he was harpazoed. The same word. He was taken away and he was found up in Azotus, I believe. All right? All of a sudden, Philip is somewhere else. Harpazoed out of there. It says that we will be harpazoed, or grabbed physically. These angels grabbed him physically through the door and shut the door. When the rapture occurs, we are going to be physically taken by God, or whatever, physically in the sense that we're gone. We're taken out by God. And then the people of the world are going to be blinded with spiritual blindness. God will send a strong delusion so that they will believe the lie, so that they will perish in their unrighteousness. Okay? Now, there are two camps on this. Seeing as I brought this up, I'm going to tell you there are two camps on salvation after the tribulation. If you have ever heard the gospel and you've rejected it, you cannot be saved. Okay? That is one view. And that everybody's going to be deceived except the people around the world that hadn't heard the gospel. They will be the ones that are evangelized by the 144,000, because there are people saved after the tribulation starts. We know that. The great multitude, okay, that nobody could name or number, that is going to happen. The second view is that, yes, you can be saved, even if you've heard and rejected the rapture. Charlie Garrett, this is me, okay? I don't want to argue with anybody. I'm going to give you my opinion, then you can think about it, because I've given you both opinions. My opinion is that the people that have heard the gospel can be saved. Who is most likely to say, I was wrong? I have a brother and a sister that don't believe, and I've told them this thing is going to happen. And all of a sudden I'm gone, the world spins into chaos. Who is more likely to believe? Them or somebody on the other side of the earth that has been coming against Israel, multitudes of Muslims coming against them, and some great leader comes out and says, don't worry, what you hear happened in America or what you hear happened in Europe, it's not true. Or some charismatic leader in Europe where there's not a lot of Christians compared to America, okay? They can deceive the masses. Doesn't mean everybody's going to be deceived. Not every is an every in the Bible. Not every all is an all. When it says that all Jerusalem was stirred at the birth of Jesus, most people didn't know. Life went on. It was saying that the leadership was all astir. Okay, but the term all is used. All right, not everybody got up and said, oh, the Messiah's born. Oh, the text shows you that. So when you read it, not every is an every. You have to take them in context. But I do believe that the people, particularly, and this is my hope as well, this is my big hope, is that the people in America will wake up when they see that the rapture has occurred. And they will say, I have missed the boat. And God, who is infinite in mercy, all he says, and it doesn't give, it says in John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. It does not say, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him up until the time of the rapture shall be saved. Right? It doesn't say, there's no demarcation line in there. It just simply says, if you believe, you will be saved. And like I said, if we're sitting in a room and there's 400 people in the church, for example, and 75% of Grace Baptist Church has gone, and the other 20% are sitting here, do you think those people are going to say, oh, I wonder what happened to them, and go walking out and, no, they are going to be on fire for Jesus Christ. They are going to be willing to lose their head. As it says, this is how the people will die. They're going to be decapitated. Well, who does the decapitating in the world today? Muslims, right? They are going to be a huge force in the end times. I'm certain of it because they're the decapitators, all right? But they have to be cutting somebody's head off, right? There are going to be people around the world that are willing to die in order for them to lose their head. So I do believe that people can be saved. I believe that this is a generalization of the world. Okay, the world is going to reject the fact that the rapture happened because somebody will come along and say, that never happened. You know, maybe there's going to be a nuclear detonation in America at the same time, and they say, they're a basket case anyway. They're falling apart. Nobody's going to know. Do you see my logic? I'm not saying that's correct. I'm just simply saying that I do believe that God is infinitely merciful and that there is not a demarcation line that says at the rapture nobody else can be saved. John 3:16 is no longer valid. Okay, that's my opinion. But do you see the parallel that I saw when I read this? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Charlie,
Yes.
what are the antenna out of it?
Those are their angels' wings. Yeah. See, I told you.
That's Charlie's art. Charlie's art.
He got it. Yeah. Anyway.
We've been having a discussion about how are people not going to realize what has happened when we're raptured? How are the people that are left not going to...
Right.
That's a hard
Now
heart.
those are ponytails.
Hard hearts will not.
Those are ponytails.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. All right. One more. Here we go. There we go. All right. Here.
One of the things is they're painting all of us as...
Insane. Yeah.
Insane, and they're just going to say they took us all away as...
Nut jobs. Right.
As a threat.
But in America, is that likely? Suppose, just suppose, I don't know what the number of true believing Christians are in America, but we'll say 30% are left. 30% of the population disappears in an instant, and people that knew them, that had been saying this is going to happen, I have great hopes for America in the end times.
Yeah.
As a place of refuge for the Jewish people. As I could be totally wrong on that. This is just Charlie Garrett's own great hope for the last bastion of normalcy, which isn't even really normal anymore, but at least the principles and the ideas are laid out where people can say, I was wrong and we need to turn back to what this nation was established on. Outside of Israel, that's pretty much it. But there are nations that will support the Jewish people. How do we know that?
They're not mentioned in the Bible as siding with the Muslim.
But how do we know that? How do we know that they're not? It's because Jesus separates the sheep from the goats. Okay, let me read that. I mentioned this in class yesterday, and well, I'm not going to because I don't know where it is unless somebody knows the particular verse right away. It might be Matthew 24. Real quick, I'll see if I can find it. He separates the sheep from the goats, and if I can find, yeah, okay, here it is. Matthew 25, it says here, 31, when the Son of Man comes in his glory with all his holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All nations will be gathered before him, nations, okay? And he will separate them one from another as a shepherd divides the sheep from the goats, and he will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. And he goes through the I fed you and all this. They said, when did you feed me? So you know that parable, okay? Who is he talking about?
Those who have helped the Jews.
The Jews. And that is a fundamental error for us to insert Christianity and going to do mission service into these verses because this is before the crucifixion. The mystery was revealed when Paul wrote about it. Nobody knew that there would be a church age. Nobody knew. Jesus was speaking about the kingdom age, which was put on hold because the Jews rejected him. Everything that we are living in now is not the kingdom age. Although we participate in the blessings of the kingdom age, we are living in the church age, the dispensation of grace. That's why we in this church are dispensationalists and not Reformed theologians. Because if we were Reformists, we would say that at the crucifixion, we are ushering in the church age. And the world is getting better and better and better. And we are doing the work for Christ. That is what they teach. We say no. Things are never going to change until Christ returns. Amen. Here is the church age as of AD 70, we'll say, although, you know, just for example, this is when the temple was destroyed. And then Christ is going to come back and he's going to sit on a literal throne for 1,000 years, which they don't believe. They're amillennialists, meaning no millennium. even though it says it 3 times in the book of Revelation, the 1,000-year reign of Christ. So we have a 1,000-year literal reign of Christ on the throne. But at this time, somewhere right in here, when we come back with Christ, this is what's going to happen. We cannot insert ourselves into what Jesus said. It's great to give sermons on the Beatitudes. The blessed is he who does it. But that's not who he's talking to. He is speaking to the kingdom age. This age right here. Which should have been here if the Jewish people accepted him. They didn't. And so the church age is in here. How do we know that we don't use that as our doctrine? Because of what Jesus,
what is our doctrine? How do we know
the kingdom age lifestyle that Jesus proclaimed. How do we know that is not? It's because Jesus said to Ananias when he said, Lord, this guy is persecuting us and you want me to go heal him? And he said, go. This man is my messenger, speaking of Paul, to carry my message to the Gentiles and to the kings of the earth and blah, blah, blah. He goes through who he's talking to and he says to lead them from... Anyway, it's in Acts. I'm going to read you real quickly. Paul is the chosen messenger to usher in the church doctrine. That's in Acts. We're going to find it real quickly here. It says Acts 9, and it says here, so the Lord said to him, arise, go to the street called Straight, and inquire at the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarsus. For behold, he is praying, and in a vision he has seen a man named Ananias coming in and putting his hand on him, so that he might receive his sight. Then Ananias answered, Lord, like the Lord doesn't know what he's doing here. Lord, Ananias answered, I have heard from many about this man, how much harm he has done to your servants in Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priests to bind all who call on your name. But the Lord said to him, go, for he is a chosen vessel of mine to bear my name before Gentiles, kings, and the children of Israel. For I will show him how many things he must suffer for my name's sake. Paul is the chosen revealer of the mystery of the church, okay? Acts 1 through 12 focuses on who in particular?
The church.
The church, well, but who? Who is the person, the one person that is most highlighted in Acts 1 through 12? Peter. And then from 13 to 28, it is almost, some people call it the Acts of Paul. Every single thing that Peter does, he heals this person, or he handkerchief, or he walks by somebody and his shadow falls on them and heals them or whatever. If it happens in 1 through 12, the same thing happens again in 13 through 28. Paul is being... So there's a reason why Peter was selected for those things. We can talk about that when we get to Acts. And then there's a reason why Paul was selected for those things. And we'll talk about that at that time. But we will go real quickly to Acts 28, and we're going to read the last part of Acts, just so we can confirm what we've just said, and then we'll get back to Genesis. It says here in Acts 28, it says, the Jewish people came to see Paul in prison when he was taken up there. And in verse 25 it says, so when they did not agree among themselves, they departed. Okay? It says, I'll go back to 24, and some were persuaded by the things which were spoken, and some disbelieved. Okay? God always said that he will preserve a remnant of Jewish people. Go have them hold up their hand in church. How many Jews are in our church? And 2 or 3 will always hold up their hand in believing churches around the world. So when they did not agree among themselves, they departed after Paul had said one word. The Holy Spirit spoke rightly through Isaiah the prophet to our fathers, saying, and then he quotes Isaiah, go to this people and say, hearing you will hear, exactly what you were talking about today, Ken. Hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. For the hearts of this people have grown dull, their ears are hard of hearing, and their eyes have closed, lest they should see with their eyes, hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so that I should heal them. Therefore, let it be known to you that salvation of God has been sent to the Gentiles, and they will hear it. Okay, and then it goes on saying that he continued preaching up, last 3 verses. Anyway, the church is an insert in God's plan for redemption. Paul explains why in Romans 9 through 11. He said that if salvation had gone to the Jews, we wouldn't be included at all. But they were blinded so that we could be grafted into the covenant people of Israel. We did not replace them. We are grafted in. And he goes through this long talk in Romans 9 through 11 explaining this. But when we read Jesus' words, we need to hold them in absolute reverence. We need to look forward to what he proclaims. But that is not what we are living in. We are not ushering in his kingdom. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. We are hoping for his kingdom to come and be reestablished in its fullness by him. He is the Lord of the kingdom, not the church. We couldn't get out of our own way if we tried.